So I thought I would first tell you that because it was really exciting day. We announced our first selection of films, the galas and special presentations, and really excited to report that 50% of the films in the gala presentations are directed by women. So when I considered coming to work at TIFF, the Shared Journey campaign played a big part in my decision. As a film producer over the last 25 years and my various other roles in the industry, I've always looked for opportunities and ways to give women opportunities to really take on key positions. So this is something that is really dear to me. But it's not always been easy. As we know, there's still a lot of work to do. The changes in the film industry over the last decade, particularly since the launch of Shared Journey, have been remarkable. The tide is turning, but there is more work to be done. We have much to celebrate this evening. Real change does not happen without the passion and action of a community, and I've been truly inspired by the response of this campaign. To date, over 4,000 people have joined the movement and made a gift to share a journey, including many of you here tonight. So I want to take a moment to say thank you and applaud you. Your help has been instrumental in having an impact and supporting so many female directors, producers, and writers, women who are transforming the entertainment landscape with their stories. Tonight, we're going to hear from a few of them. To shed some light on this transformation, I'd like you to please join me in welcoming a leading woman at TIFF and in the Shared Journey campaign. She's an incredible supporter and an ambassador, and I'm pleased to introduce our board chair, Jennifer Torrey.
So the last 2 years of Share Her Journey have been incredible and more to the point, an impactful journey, excuse the pun. And TIFF has been walking the walk. And that's the first I had heard that our 50% of our galas are directed by women this year. And if you think of the efforts that have been made over the last number of years, that's tremendous that you hit that 50% goal this year. Our industry programming piloted a series of programs ensuring there was gender parity and access in speakers, as well opened the doors to more creators. 126 women directly benefited from free access to mentorships, talent development, industry programming. The Micki Moore Residency was launched to support emerging screenwriters. 14 retrospectives of female directors were programmed at TIFF Bell Lightbox, and 20 inspiring Share Her Journey ambassadors amplified our message. Gender parity was achieved in all of our TIFF talent development programs, and that's where it starts. Before that, we really endeavored to have equal representation in those programs. But if you think about how you need to start with those programs to be able to magnify the number of women, it really is encouraging to see the number of women benefiting from all of these programs. And TIFF, as you saw in the video, hosted its first Share Her Journey rally with over 22,000 participants. And 32,000 people have been inspired to take action, as Joanna said, raising almost $2.5 million for the movement, including over $1 million from our first tribute gala, which, by the way, our second tribute gala is this year on Monday, September the 9th, and tables and tickets are on sale now. While we know there's still more to be done, those accomplishments and the commitment deserve another round of applause. I also want to call out one of my fellow board members, Betty Ann Heggie, for her passion for. And Betty Ann brought just a few of her friends who, as well, are really inspired by Betty Ann's passion for this topic and her leadership in giving as well. So tonight we're celebrating this powerful movement with a distinguished panel of luminaries who will share their experience and stories as women in the business. Tonight's panelists are but a few of the women who've participated in programs fueled by Share Her Journey. And moderating our panel is arts journalist, broadcaster, and co-founder of Jazzcast.ca, Garvia Bailey. Garvia creates space for honest conversations of depth and levity. She's interviewed a wide array of thinkers, pundits, and creators, including difficult women author Roxane Gay and the groundbreaking filmmaker, the late John Singleton. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Garvia.
How are you guys doing this evening? No, that's not very good. We're not off to a good start. Does everyone have a fan? You should get one. I'm telling you, marketing people at TIFF, get fans. Okay? Write that down. That one was for free. Next one's expensive. Thank you all for being here, and I am thrilled to live in a city where TIFF exists, not just because I get to take part in events like this one, but also to take in other great programming. Now, you've already mentioned Betty Ann, but we haven't mentioned the speakers series that's coming up, right? The Betty Ann Hagee Speakers Series talk. Last year, it was the incredible Tantu Cardinal who inspired many at the industry conference. So you want to talk about a woman with a journey. You hear that woman speak. Make sure that you tune in to that series again this year. It'll be incredible. So thanks, Betty Ann, for all your work and your program and all the things that you do. Where are you? I'm just looking out into there you, okay. We hope that tonight is as inspirational as some of those wonderful speakers that we've heard in the past. Now, I remember hearing the early rumblings of Share Her Journey a few years back. We were all kind of grappling with what it meant to be living in the time of Me Too and Time's Up, and what this newly energized cacophony of important conversations meant to us as women, both personally and professionally. It became obvious to me, and maybe I have a bias being an arts journalist, but it became obvious that the arts were often leading the way in these conversations. So in order to begin dismantling the power structures and systems that left women in vulnerable positions and without a platform, we had to come up with real, tangible stuff, like real things that needed to be changed, systemic change. TIFF wisely took their mission statement, which is to transform the way people see the world through film, and said, let's be intentional about nurturing storytellers and artists, the women who should be and sometimes are at the top of the industry, the women working towards being in the game, and let's amplify their works and stories year-round and provide the means to get those stories told. Now, this all had to be done while simultaneously building true community. So Share Her Journey is all about prioritizing gender parity, claiming power through peer-to-peer sharing, through mentorship, media literacy, the development of skills. So I am so pleased to introduce a group of women who have been engaged in the initiative in various ways, and we're going to learn all about that. So I'm going to welcome you all to the stage. Are you guys ready? Okay. So this is interesting in that we get to we're halfway, at the halfway mark of almost at the halfway mark of the mandate of Share Her Journey, which is really incredible. So this is a great time to check in on y'all, the people that have been a part of the initiative. But first I want to start at the beginning of your careers and just talk about maybe just hit me with the single most dominant stumbling block in moving your career along to where you want to be. And that stumbling block may be gone by now, but something that really hit you as a difficulty as you began your career. And I'll start with you, Meredith.
Huh.
Just because I thought I saw you thinking too hard.
Well, I would say my career has been as a writer, but I came from the theater where I did a lot of directing, and I really tried to make that transition into directing film, and the doors just did not fly open. I had a lot more luck once I turned to writing, so I've always taken that as a sign that I'm more of a writer, and But I have to say, at this age and this stage, seeing so many opportunities for directors and for female directors, and so many of my favorite movies have always been directed by female directors, and seeing that Sammy Chellis has a movie in the galas, seeing that announced today. I mean, these are just thrilling and wonderful things. And I feel like those stumbling blocks are not the same as they were when I was starting out.
Right. And we'll talk about how that path happened. Well, how about you, Ashley? That dominant stumbling block for you.
I think for me, the first stumbling block I probably had was like access to gear. Because I always had like great ideas and I knew I could like execute them, but I didn't have access to like cameras or lenses or lights. So I think at first it was probably gear access.
Yeah. Resources. The stuff you need to make the stuff. That makes sense. Carol?
So I was very lucky to have started filmmaking in high school because I went to a specialized arts high school. But I never thought I wanted to pursue filmmaking. Because I never saw anyone who looked like me as a director. So when I fell in love with the craft and I decided that I really want to tell my own stories, it was hard seeing myself actually getting there. And that was difficult to even kind of convince, my parents or see any success in myself. So that was very hard, but as the years went by, moving along, seeing films like The Farewell, seeing shows like Kim's Convenience, it really gave me hope.
Do you remember the first person that you saw that you thought to yourself, oh, I can connect with this person as a creator, like that's someone that I can either aspire to be like, or at least look at their career and see? The first person where you kind of saw a bit of yourself.
It was actually a Japanese filmmaker. My world of filmmaking was very narrow. Again, I never thought I would have gone into film. So when I was younger, I thought film was just Hollywood. So the first time seeing just an Asian director, I was like, oh my God, we exist.
Do you remember who the director was? Do you remember the name?
It was an old school director. He did Funeral of Parade of Roses. I think it was Toshio Matsumoto.
Okay. I'm going to go to you, Nikki. About the question again is about those dominant stumbling blocks that you might have had in your early career.
Well, I promised myself I wasn't going to overshare in an inappropriate way. But things were pretty okay.
Right.
There weren't that many obstacles. Then I got very sick just after completing a writer's residency at the Canadian Film Centre, and for years. So that was grappling with my mortality wasn't great. But then the challenging thing, and we can talk about this and what Share Her Journey's been for me, is how the darn you come back after you've dropped off the radar and no one cares who you are, and there's 30 other funny little Jewish girls coming up, and it's hard when you get sidelined by life to how you come back and who still cares about you and yada yada yada. So that's probably my biggest one. I have others to do with men, but that was, you asked for the biggest one.
And I think it's probably those moments of being sidelined seem to me to be, it's not particular to women, but it is. I was just up at a cottage with 8 of my closest girlfriends. We do it every year. We call it Lady Camp. And one of the things that we talk about is how often we see some of our male counterparts failing up when something happens, something terrible happens, and then they come back, and then they're the president of the company. And
that never happened to me.
But yes, but I think that women, I think that there's often times when it feels like it's just a little bbit more difficult to get back up on the horse once you've fallen off.
Yes, and the only thing for me that was how does being a woman factor in is there is this fear, because I was writing comedy, that everyone at the time, and to some extent still, is looking for a funny woman writer. So there's tons of us. So if you fall off the radar for whatever reason, like whether you get pregnant or you get sick or you have a family crisis or something like that, there is that feeling that, oh shit, like I was at my friend's Passover dinner and there were 4 other funny little Jewish girls. I'm done. Like, because there's, you know, I don't know if that's true.
Maybe you're the funny Jewish girl that juggles fire. You know, you got to get a shtick. You got to get like a something.
My shtick is being a funny Jewish girl, and we're everywhere.
Right.
But I feel like maybe men don't experience that feeling in the same way of, you know,
Right.
like funny guys aren't like, we're everywhere. Shit. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, well, men are funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, we're everywhere, and we're all employed. Like, it's just I feel like that's different. It's harder.
It's a different mindset for sure.
They seem to be more confident.
Yeah, but they're confident because it's been set up for that. That confidence has been set up. I mean, the confidence, as they say, is baked in, right?
I would agree.
In the system. So let's talk about share her journey and the initial thoughts when you first, because a big initiative like this is often what happens amongst my friends anyway that are in media, is a big initiative is announced and we instantly start talking about, oh, how we would do it better, or what, you know, or what's going to happen with it, or how's it going to work. So I wonder about your own feelings around it when it was first announced, and what you saw as your hopes for the initiative, what you wanted it to really be. I'll start with you, Carol. As an ambassador.
Well, for me, what I'm thinking of is I'm in my 4th year of university, so I'm getting to that stage where I'm going to actually fully submerge myself in filmmaking full time. And what I'm starting to see with my older friends and colleagues is that there's not enough funding for us to do film full time. Well, there's a lot of commercial projects, but there's not enough funding to develop our own craft. There's not enough funding to develop even the Canadian film industry. And so I would like to see us develop through funding programs, through fellowship programs, and even residencies. I think that would help everyone take it full time, push themselves, and be able to innovate.
So when you saw the announcements, I don't know where you might have been when you saw the announcements for Share Her Journey coming up. Did it seem to you like did it feel like a beacon of hope, or did it?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Right. And what about you, Ashley? In what were you doing at the time when the idea of Share Her Journey kind of came to you, and what were your thoughts on it?
I think initially I was really happy because I think that as female creators, it's hard for us to like find resources that actually like look out for us and actually support us. So I guess for me, I got the email. I was just like really excited that there was a way for me to like go to TIFF and get conference passes and see all the amazing films and like be able to be in that space.
Did it feel like a moment of hope, other than just, I mean, in the moment you get an email that says you get to do all of these things, but did you see the broader, or maybe the more far-reaching implications of what something like this could do?
I think for me, it just really inspired me to like go harder and like really try to like, achieve my dreams so that I could help other females do the same. So I think it just really inspired me.
Meredith?
Yeah, I would say I felt really grateful. I saw it, and Maxine Bailey, I was like, Maxine Bailey, you are amazing for doing this, for starting this, for getting this ball rolling. I didn't know what it looked like.
Right.
That was the thing, is I had no vision. It was a big cloud, but I sent a check, like right away, because it was like, okay, if this is going to happen, I have to be behind this right away.
That's great. So the first thing you did was support it, which makes sense. And did you see the potential of something like this right off the top?
I saw the need for sure, and so I trusted that other people could see the vision and the potential. I could see the potential. I just, as I said, I didn't see the how. Didn't come to me immediately.
Right.
But I trusted other people would. And what's interesting is how many, Share Her Journey has found so many really interesting and exciting ways to support female creators. Like Tracy Deer and I co-wrote a movie together, and we won a screenplay award that was supported by Share Her Journey, and that has done so many good things for the film. So that would not have been, it's not a direct line, you know. It's like, okay, if we help this film, the screenplay becomes award-winning, then people want to read it. It also gave us amazing opportunities to get feedback from the jury, who are made up of amazing women in the film industry, and have another round with our story editor, who made us work really hard and really take a script that was good enough to win an award and make it that much better, because it can always be that much better, and then help it get ordered. So it's going into production, as Garvia said. So the movie's getting made.
And I cannot wait. Well, yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is probably a good time to talk about that film just a little bit, if I want to stick with you for a minute, because there is something to be said about a film like this that is so important, I think, right now in this time, to tell this story. And when I saw the outline of what this film is about and the story that's being told, I thought, yes, these are the films. This is the perspective that everyone spoke about wanting to see. So tell me just a little bit, like, just share with us just a little something about the film itself.
So Tracy Deer, my co-writer, grew up on Ganawage, which is a reserve just outside of Montreal, and she was 12 during the Oka crisis. And so the story is a 12-year-old's coming of age during the Oka crisis. And so not everything in the movie happened to Tracy, but it is certainly a child's perspective on that momentous part of Canadian history. And it's really, and we've been working on it for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. And it has always felt to me at every stage like it is the film that we all need to hear right now. It is the story that we all need to hear right now. And as we have worked on it, it has been amazing to see the world change around us. It is still the story we need to hear right now.
Yeah, now more than ever.
And Tracy would be here and sends her regrets. And actually, prep started yesterday. So she's been busy and is really busy now.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time when it felt like this thing? Because when it is something like this, because it comes from Tracy's own biography, was there ever a time when it felt like, this might not get done and it would be a tragedy?
I just kind of never let myself go there. Like, it was always, I just saw this one, and I've written other films that haven't been made, and, you know, I've had that happen, but this one was always different. This was always so much bigger than just a film we were working on. It was just more important, and so many things aligned and continue to align that, you know, whenever a door went up, there was another window right there, and we could just go through that window. But mostly doors flew open, which is not my experience always in the film industry. So it was just felt like we just had to keep rising to do our work to deserve that.
Yeah.
And just like I said, I never let myself, just stayed with it, just stayed on point on this one.
And that analogy of the doors opening, I feel like to many of the women that are going to be touched by Share Her Journey in whatever way, as a participant or as someone that's just supporting it, as a mentor, as whatever it is, it does feel like it's the kind of initiative that is that window or is that door for so many, as you're struggling through your stuff and you're like, yeah, my thing is so great, but nobody knows and nobody cares but me. And sometimes my mom on Tuesdays. And then something happens like this, where someone opens up a window for you and says, you know, you can come through this. So it's kind of spectacular. And I'm so happy that happened for you and the film. I still have to ask you, Nikki, about the idea of Share Her Journey. When it first came to you, what your thoughts were.
I'm just going to be real.
Please be real. This is about being real.
It was a hard summer.
Yes.
They were doing construction in my building, like on my balcony. So I was homeless. because like when you're a writer, you need quiet.
Yeah.
And there's a jackhammer outside my window, these big rude men. And then my dog's like, "Wah!" like losing his mind. So I was writing in my friend's place who like lives in a house across the street, who's also a wonderful writer and great supporter of women in the arts. And she actually said to me, hey, there's this thing, the Micki Moore Fellowship, you should apply. And at that time, because I was maybe a year out of my illness, so I was just kind of putting my story editing agency back together and, you know, like kind of doing the freelance thing. And she was like, you should apply to this. And I went, it's TIFF, like there's no way. And full disclosure, like a couple of years ago, I actually thought I was probably forever blacklisted because I had gotten into quite a Twitter argument with a male programmer at TIFF who's no longer here, about why there was not one film by a female director in the Midnight Madness program.
Oh, interesting.
And to his credit,
Yeah.
he engaged with me for a long time on Twitter, like saying, "Oh, well, we just don't get submissions by female horror directors." And I was like, "Well, that's bullshit because I could tell you about like 30 female horror directors. Go find them. So that's your job."
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought I was done with TIFF, or not TIFF was done with me. And she said like just apply, and TIFF felt so inaccessible to me at that time that I actually didn't apply. And then a few days later, when it was like 40 minutes before the deadline, she was like, "You have the materials. Please, like, just do this." And Molly McGlynn, who I love, I told her like, okay, Molly McGlynn's gonna win it, but I'll just apply. And I did, and then I forgot about it, as you do with it. I think that's a good, for all the writers here, like a good tip for applying for things is like just
apply and run away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just throw it in and then run away. Forget about it.
I do that with dating too. Now I think about it. But yeah, so I applied, and then I got a phone call months and months and months later saying, "Hey, we're calling from TIFF," and I actually nearly hung up and was like, "Sorry, I don't have any money. Bye." And it turned out to be news about the Micki Moore residency, and it's really transformed my career. Like it's been the best thing to happen to me in a really, really long time.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah.
And it's the inaugural. It's the first. You're the first of.
Yeah, comes with a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
No,
yes.
it's been amazing. It feels like I did. I mean, I'm really sad that it's over for me with the residency, but it weirdly feels amazing to know that there's other women coming to have the same. I mean, it was truly an amazing opportunity and an extreme privilege. So
yeah,
like I could go on about it forever. So
and you accomplished much during that time as a part of your residency.
Yeah. So do you want to know about it?
Yes, please.
So initially there was, I think the residency was going to be like you lived in an apartment or something, but I didn't want to relocate my dog because he's very anxious and all his friends live near us. So I asked instead if it would be possible to have an office, which was a lifesaver because of all the construction. So I had an office, and I got to just come and write. Like there was financial support because of Micki Moore.
Yes.
Who's here tonight.
Is Micki Moore here?
Yes.
Wow. It's the Micki Moore.
Yeah. And I mean, it almost never happens when you're a writer, like when you're coming up, or for me, it was kind of putting my stuff back together, that someone comes up to you and is like, hey, like take a moment, back off of the freelance thing. Here's some money.
Yeah.
Go write.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's the best.
It is.
That's the best thing a writer could ever hear. It's just like, here's some money. Don't worry about how you're going to pay your rent for a bit, and just go and write. And there's no greater gift for a writer than that. So
it's super hard to be creative when
you can't.
When the hustle is the thing.
I used to, because I have some friends who are like, man, well, this writer worked in a mine and then he came home and wrote his novel and but it's like,
I am not that guy.
No, and honestly, this is a conversation I have with a lot of writers who come from many different backgrounds. But like for me, from my experience, because I've done like a million jobs, and it's very hard / almost impossible to come home from like a 10-hour work day.
Yeah.
And do your dishes and make your dinner and maybe walk your dog And then to get into the headspace where like you're on, you're funny, you're 5 steps ahead of the audience, like it's impossible. It's truly, or it's near impossible. Like I know there are writers who can do it, and good for them, they're supermen or women. But I really believe like to be a creative, and I think this is a problem, and I don't know how to address it necessarily, but it's really for the privileged. Like even when I look at who's made it in our industry as Canadians, you know, like the reality is like most of these people have support from like their families. They're not working 3 jobs.
Yep.
Few probably are, but it's a real problem.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Once again, providing that window. Ashley, I was snooping around your Instagram. So, one of the things I saw was you said this, as I get older, I'm realizing more and more the importance of trusting the process and trusting myself. You'll be surprised the moves you can make in the right direction if you step out of your own way. Right? That's your own wisdom. And I wanted to bring it back to this experience, the experience that you've had with Share Her Journey, how that might have contributed to fostering or to supporting that idea of stepping out of your own way and just.
I think for me, I'm like a really shy person, so I wouldn't like go to screenings by myself, or I wouldn't ask questions or do anything like that. So I feel like because Share Her Journey gave me conference passes, and like I know it's a very privileged thing to have, and not a lot of people were able to have one. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to all the screenings, I'm gonna go to all the panels, I'm gonna go to all the parties by myself, and I just kind of like talked to random people, had conversations, networked, and it just felt so good. I was like, wow, I actually like belong here. Like I should be taking up space, and it was like really, I guess, inspiring for me, and it just really helped push me forward, I guess.
Yeah, that whole idea of taking up space. I mean, there is something to be said for there's something about your character already that would allow you to do that, to just go out and do it. So you got to give yourself props for it. It's not just Share Her Journey. It's something in your character that put you in that space. But I wonder about those connections and what you saw as and how, not just the experience. Did any of those connections come to fruition? Did anything shake out after that experience for you?
Actually, I met this lady who runs a film festival in New York, and she actually wanted me to like come out there and talk, but because of my schedule, it just didn't work out. But that was like a hopeful thing.
Yeah, excellent, fantastic. Carol, you make this really very cool distinction between equity and equality when it comes to women in film specifically. And I'd love to know I'd love for you to break that down for us here, because I think it's really important. So can you just explain to me how the distinction for you when it comes to this world of film?
Mm-hmm. I think you broke it down. You kind of like entered it a little between in terms of privilege. And when I think of the arts, I think of privilege. You know, you need to have some kind of support behind you to be able to get so far. And the reality for many people in North America, especially it being a multicultural society, a society where we're still trying to reach gender equality, those doors aren't open for many of us. Some come from disadvantaged families. Some come from societies, states, or provinces that may not be as progressive as we are in cities. And so not all women, not all children of color, not all women of color as well will be able to even get that first step, will be able to even have the exposure to knowing that these careers exist, that they can do it, that there are people like them out there who will inspire them to push, and to do what they want. And so equity for me is just opening the door. I heard someone say it in a video and I thought it was really interesting. I'm gonna explain it through this metaphor actually. Imagine like a person who is able to walk and a person who is handicapped who might not have that luxury. It's like equality is saying that all people have to use the stairs. Whereas equity is saying, okay, we'll put the stairs and a ramp for one person. So allowing that transition for all people from all different types of background to get to the same spot.
Yes. Pushing forward, we are halfway through the initiative, through the Share Her Journey, and I wonder about what you as individuals who have been a part of it and have benefited or had the opportunity to take advantage of some of the wonderful parts of the initiative, what you see is maybe what this next 2 years could look like or should look like. What might we? This is a great opportunity in being able to take a look at something partway through it and say what might change, what could shift. And if you had the ears of those people, which I think you do, what would you like to see this next 2 years look like with Share Her Journey? I'll start with, it looks like you want it. Nikki, you've got the floor.
I just feel strongly that there are people who have zero access to these opportunities. And like even I before, like for me, I had this weird experience because I went to film school. I went to the Canadian Film Center. I was like, I am doing it. Like I'm living the dream. And then I lost like everything and I couldn't work. And so I thought I was done with the industry. And then this initiative came along and was like, nope, like we're bringing you back. We're giving you the opportunity. Like it was life-changing. But I know like financially there are writers. I can only speak to writers because that's all I know. But there are writers out there who are amazing writers and they're working 4, 5, 6 jobs and like they'll never get here. Right. They will never get into the industry. They just won't. So I don't know how you for me giving the opportunities, because you see on a lot of these applications, like you have to have gone through something like the Canadian Film Center. You have to have done a major development lab. And like, I'll be straight up. Like when I went through the Canadian Film Center, I had to get a scholarship because I couldn't afford it. And I had to call like my whole family and beg them to help me. And they did. There are people who do not have that option. And so they'll never get here. No, and like it chokes me up because it's just, it sucks. It really sucks. So I mean, I don't know how you find those people who have the talent and they have the drive and they want to do it, but they're working their 4 jobs and or they can't work because they're sick or they're disabled or they're whatever the challenges are. I don't think storytelling should be reserved for the lucky.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a way to find the rest of us. Yeah.
Meredith?
Well, and I'm not sure how exactly Share Her Journey plays into this, but one thing that Women in View is an organization that has done studies on women in gender parity in film and television in Canada, and the most recent study looks at 2014 to 2017. And what's interesting is that when you put women in positions of creative power, women showrunners, it's 53% women holding major creative positions under them. So that solves it. And if you put a woman of color, then that brings up put a woman of color in the position of showrunner, that brings up women of color and Indigenous women to much higher numbers. So it's an interesting challenge because I'm not sure how, but I will leave it to smarter people than me to figure out how do we bring women into those higher positions. One thing that has happened is that public institutions they've set their targets, they've reported on their targets. CBC in 2016 said, we are going to have 50% women direct our TV shows. And they went from 22% to 37% in 1 year, which is amazing. So what we're hoping for now is for private institutions in film distributors and in TV broadcasters. And so that's, I guess, would be my appeal to the people in this room who have those ears or who are those ears to be looking for those targets to be set by broadcasters and distributors for women in film and key creative positions and the lead creative positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley, you've already spoken about being able to, the idea of, I don't think you said it this way, but the idea of pulling as you climb, you know, being able to take whatever it is that you have that you've achieved yourself and helping others. You alluded to that. And I think maybe at the end of this, or maybe in all your lives, in your personal work, you're thinking about how you can be individually in your own lives, you know, pulling as you climb. How are you doing that? Is that some? It seems like it's something that's important to you, and this comes from reading your IG.
I think for me, whenever I get hired on certain jobs, like if I'm the DP, I get to choose like who's a part of like my camera crew, who's like my grips and gaffs. I always try to like hire other females, whether even editors. Like I just try to really crew up when I do have power. And if I'm at work and I'll ask them, I'll be like, do you guys need extra PAs? Do you guys need like other crew? And then I always suggest like females that I know.
So how do you think, what would you like to see something like Share Her Journey do in the next 48 months or in the next year and a half?
I think maybe more workshops. I think that the more workshops people do, the more like equipped they are with skills, which gives them confidence to like keep doing their thing. So I think more female-led workshops would be a great start, I think.
Yeah, that's something that's very tangible too, right? It's something that is like a hands-on, I am doing something and learning something and walking away with something. As an ambassador, Carol, what are your thoughts on what the next 2 years should look like?
I would like to see more long-term fellowships and mentorships. I think as an emerging filmmaker myself, like sometimes you get in the spot where you just start to question yourself and you don't have someone above you to just rely on to ask questions and to be vulnerable. And having long-term mentorships and fellowships that are goal-oriented could help you achieve your goals. I was a part of the Sundance Ignite Fellowship last year, which is a fellowship for filmmakers under 24. And each filmmaker got a mentorship for a year that you could contact for every month or however you want to organize it with. And I think that was my greatest gift from that fellowship, was just being able to connect with someone and be so close and to just be like, I don't know if this like contract is right, or like I'm feeling really insecure right now. Like, is this normal? And then have someone validate my feelings and say, you know, everyone goes through this, is really comforting as an emerging filmmaker.
I wonder about, you talked about going to an art school and how moving into that space might be, because I think it's that in those early days that I know that when I was coming up, I grew up in a very small town. There wasn't a lot of, there were no Black women mentors in my town. There weren't anyone that I was looking at in the media world that kind of was quite like me yet. And so I wonder about that in that early part of how an initiative like this might be able to be seeded earlier.
I would agree. Whenever I talk about anyone, talk to someone about high school, they're just like, I hated high school. I'm like, what? I loved high school. I want to go back to high school. And that's because the high school that I went to, it's called Etobicoke School of the Arts. It had a film program where they encouraged their youth to say what they wanted to say, unfiltered, where they encouraged youth to be vulnerable and to just explore and legitimize their feelings as teens. And I feel like, you know, when you're growing up and you're developing and you have all these insecurities and you're trying to figure the world out, you just need to be able to play. And sometimes high schools don't give us the space to.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I'm going to open up the floor to some questions, actually. If anyone has any questions, just give us a wave. I do not have my glasses on, so I'm going to have to depend on the lovely ladies with the microphones. I see someone way up there.
Hi. My question is for Ashley. Ashley, she mentioned that you worked on a lot of different commercial shoots, and I'm curious kind of how do you like claim your space in those areas that are really predominantly the creative is being manned by so many different people, and there's a lot of white men in those spaces. How do you kind of like, you know, hold your own and do that? Like, because you worked on a lot of big projects, so curious.
That's a challenging question because I don't think I really have a certain like method to deal with it. I just find males have a lot of ego, so I just try to find a way to work around it, I guess. Let me think. No, because I think some days after a shoot, I'll actually go home very defeated. And I'll be very upset. I want to quit. I'm like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Because it's like, I find men challenge me a lot. And because they have so much ego, it's just like, I feel like after they tell me no a couple times, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to back away. Even if I know I'm like super right about something. So I think I just try to stand firm in my opinion when I can. And if it's a battle that I just can't fight, I just have to walk away.
You work with two men professionally as in a partnership, right? So does that prepare you for? Do you ever say to them, "How do I talk to your people? How do I get through to them? Give me some tips."
Well, lucky for me, to be honest, like they're so different from any like white creators I've ever worked with. Like they're very humble. They're very egoless. Like even when we tackle shoots, like we just have a meeting and decide like who's gonna do what. Like some days like one will shoot, one will be like their first AC, one will be doing lighting, and we just kind of discuss things. So we don't really have issues because they're not typical guys that I've worked with.
Right.
So they're not problematic at all.
Right. You lucked out. Well done. Well done. Any more questions? Oh, was that someone just stretching? You might have been just stretching with your hat, weren't you? You were, yes. Right up there. Hi.
Hi. Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. This is a question for whoever has an answer for it, but is there space in Share Her Journey for trans women, gender non-conforming, non-binary persons?
I think that question is best answered by the ambassador.
I think Share Her Journey is not only about equality for women, but for people from all communities. So everyone in the LGBT community, people of color. So I'm not sure if there's a specific program, but there should be. So I would ask TIFF staff maybe.
It's an excellent question. It's a great question. Shiny jacket. You got a lot of nice things on your jacket. I can see that. My bad eyes can see your shine.
I'm interested in hearing, as women filmmakers or being involved in the creative process as women, is how do you think that changes the product that goes out?
Oh, that's a great question.
The influence that you have.
Well, something that I hate is being seen as a woman writer. I know there are writers who don't feel that way, and that's fine. But I want to be competitive with men. And I get a lot of requests, oh my God, all the time, from men when I'm working as a script consultant. It's the same email every time saying, hello, we'd like your female perspective on our script. Or we've written a pilot, but it really needs a female, female. And like, I'm a script consultant when I'm working in that capacity. I don't see myself as a female script consultant. And I hate that question. So for me, the writers that I love, the screenwriters that I love, there are some who are women. But to be completely honest with you, like, my biggest influences are guys like Billy Wilder and Bud Schulberg. And these are men who wrote incredible characters, like male characters, women characters. And I aspire to be like them. And so I think it's a complicated question, because there are obstacles that come with being a woman in the industry. But there are just so many obstacles with just trying to be in the industry, no matter who you are, Like, I have wonderful male writer friends too, who've had their own difficulties in life. And, when I look at myself against some of them, like, I feel bad for them. And I'm like, well, good luck. Like, it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard for everybody. And I think, like, ideally we get to a place where there are initiatives that support anyone who's just had their ass kicked a little bit by life and could use the help. But just for me personally, for me, I want to write good pages, not good female pages.
Right.
So, and when I work on somebody else's project as a consultant, I never take a job. I would rather. I'm trying to think of something that's not rude. I'd rather pick up I'd rather pick up a dog walking gig or something than work on a script as a female consultant, giving my female perspective. Like, that drives me crazy. I just, if you're a writer, you're a good writer, and you're a guy, then you write good characters, male, woman, whatever. And it's like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it cheapens your own work when you're viewed as the female giving her female touch. Like, I hate that.
Meredith, I bet you have. I mean, you've worked on some big productions, TV, film, all of it.
It's an interesting question, for sure. And it has changed in the 16 years I've been writing in TV and film, for sure. What helps me, I think so much of it is personality. And I think along the gender lines, everyone can fall everywhere. But I do think not having the ego that Ashley was talking about is very useful, especially in TV, where it is a group creative and you are following someone else's vision. So your job is to help make that vision happen. It's not ego-less, but you kind of aspire to be ego-less and just keep throwing things into the pot. And it really is about the work. And the more you can keep it about the work, it's not about gender. And if you get into questions of, well, would a man feel that, would a female, you just say, well, I feel this way. I believe that. I'm not quite buying that. I don't quite think that's it. And really trying to not be super confrontational with somebody who's going to fight you just to win. But, really just trying to get the best idea across. And I was on one show one time where I got my outline got torn to pieces. And the older white male writer next to me, his outline sailed through, and I could see problems with it, but I was, quite frankly, worried enough, licking my own wounds. And so I went away and wrote a really great first draft. And everybody was so shocked. It was awesome. I was the youngest and one of the only two women in the room, and they were so surprised. And of course, this draft this outline that had problems at the outline stage got through the first draft, and they were all oh God, we didn't see any of this. Well, they weren't looking for it. They were looking at me. I was going to be the problem. So anyway, so it and it's my younger sister, who's a journalist, told me. She said, it's never been, it's always benefited me to be underestimated. And so I'm not saying that's right, but whatever you got, work it.
I think we're all out of time, unfortunately. Oh no. Well, can we just do one more? One more question.
It's not a good enough one to end on. Do your thing, really.
We can do one more question. Where someone that was saying, I'm gonna have to make the call. And because
there was a young lady right way back there that had her hand up for a while. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go there. Hi.
Sorry. Just speaking to that and being underestimated, I was just wondering for anyone, has age played into your identity shaping as a creative at any stage of life?
I think for me, definitely. I'm 21, so I've entered this industry pretty young, and I feel like I've had to mature very quickly. But again, with the underestimation, with my age, with my gender, with my ethnicity, I've always found myself thinking like, okay, well, I'll show you, like, let me show you. And that really empowered me and filled my like chest with fire. And when I was able to show them, I felt like I was able to prove myself and to kind of not have that stigma in front of me anymore. So yes, age has played a role, but so has everything else in who I am.
Yeah. Meredith?
It's a tough one because I'm like at the other end of that now. Like in terms of TV world, I feel like I'm getting older, and I don't know. I just think you keep doing your best work and you keep showing up and you keep answering the questions but it certainly plays a role in that it's like casting a play if you're trying to be in a television room, because they're not going to take you if they have one like you. So they're going to take somebody who's younger or somebody who's different. There should be diversity in rooms, you know? It plays a role that way, but I do think that you just have to just work to your strengths at whatever age you're at.
Yeah. Ashley, did you want to answer that question as well?
I don't really think age plays a role for me because I don't really share my age casually. And I think I look young, but yeah, I don't think so, really.
I feel you. When I started working at the CBC, one of the first bits of advice I got from my then husband was like, no one needs to know how old you are, eh? And I was like, oh, that's true. And she's like, nobody needs to know. And so I didn't tell anybody for ages, and everyone was just like, she is so smart and wise for her youth. And like, you know, and so it's okay. Just keeping under cloak. I get you. I feel you. Keep it under cloak and dagger. Nikki.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm in my 30s now, but I remember the first show that I ever sold when I was having meetings and had a partner and was called Girls, 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 constantly. Listen, girls,
Hey,
pay attention,
girls.
da 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 da. So, like, I mean, it plays a role to the extent that it favors youth and, like, quirky, cute young people, but then the people making the decisions often that you're pitching to and who are buying your ideas are, like, way older than you. So that's hard.
Yeah.
But you, like, for me, I think I have quite a disagreeable personality, so I have no problem looking at someone and just saying, like, by the way, I'm not a girl. Are you a boy?
Right.
6-year-old man? Are you, like, oh, you're not? Okay, like, could we just stick with women? Like, and to be honest, no one's ever met that. I've done that plenty of times, and every single time the guy's just like, oh, well, sorry.
Right.
And that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be a big drama.
Yeah.
Although it's fun when it is. But like, you know, not to sound like a broken record, but for me, honest to God, like, in a perfect world when it comes to writing, like, I don't even want to exist. I don't care if people know who I am. Like, I want the stuff that's on the page to move people and to matter. And the rest of it is just unfortunate.
Right. We need to leave it there, unfortunately. But I want to thank you all and thank all of you for your great questions.